everybody, it's Aluna Michaels, Esoteric Astrologer, coming at you to talk about the events of June 2018. And, okay, let's see here. The main thing let's talk about is this Mars retrograde cycle we're going into. And Mars retrogrades very infrequently. It's like every 2.25 years. And by the way, just a plug for this wonderful book by Aaron Sullivan, Retrograde Planets, if you guys like to read about astrology. It will talk about retrograde planets in your own chart, natally, your birth planets, or when planets turn retrograde. Especially, Mercury retrograde happens so often. It's like, okay, here it comes, here it goes. But the longer kind of impact things like the Mars retrograde or something, Venus retrograde, she's got great information in here about it. So Mars is not turning retrograde until the very end of June. For those of you who like this sort of thing, we've got Mars goes retrograde at 9 degrees of Aquarius, and then it will that's on the 26th, 27th of June. Then it's going to go back to 28 degrees of Capricorn, and that will go forward like around August 27. And then people like to know when Mars passes that 9 degrees of Aquarius again. That won't be till early October. And then when we look, okay, when was Mars 28 degrees before it ever went retrograde, 28 degrees of Capricorn? And that was May 12th or so. What's interesting about this retrograde deal is that as Mars turns retrograde, it's going to contact Uranus, which we talked about last month, Uranus going into Taurus. So last month I talked to you about Mars was Uranus was still in Aries. Mars squared Uranus, and Mars, is the planet of aggression, of goals, of sexuality, of work, of your identity and ego, kind of like the sun in some ways, vitality. So, and Uranus can be sort of chaotic in things. So when Mars squares Uranus, it's like, So Mars will square Uranus again when it goes backwards in early August. And then it will do it again as Mars goes forward, and that'll be mid-September. So that's kind of interesting. So just this idea as Mars is retrograding this month of June, we're kind of looking back at those things in mid-May. I have heard so many stories, cuckoo relationship stories, maybe because the Uranus is in there, it gets a little cuckoo, but people abruptly ending relationships or just shifts happening and people being disgruntled about relationships. And Mars has a lot to do with your desires and needs. And when it's starting to do a retrograde pattern, it can be like, I can't get my needs met in this situation. Or Kitty's needs are he wants to eat, and those needs are not being met right now. Shh. Okay, so Mars retrograde can make you feel frustrated and kind of like it can never work out, or there's no way people can cooperate, and again, it's exacerbated by this Uranian clash that's also happening. But what can come out of that is that Uranus can also think of creative solutions. And because Mars is retrograding in Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, ultimately there can be like a solution for the good of all. Something I can do in my life that can make everything better for everyone around me. Or you can tap into this higher intuition about how all the needs get met and how the goals get accomplished and things like this. So I guess, as Mars this whole month is slowing down to go retrograde, you can feel like this, or you could feel like, okay, kind of like a Mercury retrograde, I'm going to go within, I'm going to see what are my most important goals and values, and how I can prioritize these goals and needs and values. And how you might have gotten into situations that make you act differently than those goals, and to kind of tap into this sort of yes to life, and yes, that makes me excited about getting up every morning, and tapping back into it and planning, for really the whole Mars retrograde this month and down through the end of August. what plan can I put in action where I live from that sense of, yes, I like being alive and doing me, being me, and how I'm being me in a way that isn't making you miserable, or, you know, a way that, again, I'm fully me, but maybe because I'm so fully me, it creates a resonance around me rather than a conflict. You know, there still could be people that move out of your life, you need to leave a job or something like that to feel you're fully you, but it can also be like, wow, that actually is working out for everybody involved in the situation, that these shifts are happening. There also can be, when Mars does go direct, you know, in August, you might not see like how maybe something can come back together and be workable that looked completely not workable during this time period, even from May to the end of August. But, you know, really starting to be some teeth gnashing this month of June. Okay, so that's happening. Interesting, like the same time, there's a full moon at the end of June. That's kind of interesting, and we'll be talking about these eclipses that are coming up in July, and there's kind of like these loaded lunations, the moon, the full moon, the new moon, the full moon, for a few times. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So this is kind of starting that. It's not an eclipse, but so there'll be a full moon, which of course the sun opposed moon, but Saturn is going to be next to the moon when the full moon is there, which can again be the sense of like, Saturn can hold results back, or a sense of planning for a long term. But because Mars is just turning retrograde at that point, there's a real sense of frustration for a lot of people. So again, cutting people some slack that they're feeling frustrated or sort of like totally bummed out that they're not, sorry about Kitty, that you're bummed out that you can't get the mission can't be accomplished, but how there's a sense that things will come forward later. Saturn can give that idea of you kind of get centered and an answer can come and it gets fulfilled at a later time. I'm sorry, Kitty makes me laugh. It's a funny little voice. So hang on a second. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry guys. He wants to go outside and eat. Then we'll talk about Neptune going retrograde. Neptune retrogrades about the 18th of June. And now all the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, they all retrograde once a year, and then they go direct once a year. So it's not a huge deal that the outer planets are retrograde if they're retrograde half the time. But that turning point can be a little funny. And again, this kind of fits in with the theme that Neptune is about your vision, your hopes and dreams, and like, you know, like, wow, I wonder. And when Neptune starts to turn retrograde, it's like, you know, like dreams don't come true, or that isn't possible, or you have some sort of illusion shattered by people's behavior, and it's like, oh, people aren't good or something, you know. So there can be a sort of sense of woefulness for this time, and like especially that late time of June, where really to keep your faith that there is a way things will work out, and it just needs this period of adjustment and realigning that's coming in with that full moon and the Mars retrograde pattern, and trying not to be super bummed out. I have a friend who's an astrologer as well, and we're always like, oh, Neptune's turning retrograde, and people tend to be that week or so is just bummed, and that it is a good time for extra sleep. I know that sounds sort of dumb, but you just kind of need extra rest during that stationing point of Neptune. Some extra meditation, and sticking with friends who are really kind and maybe let you cry on their shoulder, or just, you know, aren't judgmental of things, and just sort of, even just someone who wants to hug you, you know. My little kitty was talking animals, you know, unconditional love of animals can be really soothing during that Neptune stationing time. Now again, I'm not talking about the whole time Neptune's retrograde for, you know, however many months, 6 months or something. You're bummed out the whole time. It's just that turning point time. So keeping your faith during that time period, and saying again, like kind of getting back to that Mars retrograde idea of like, what like parts of me that make me excited I don't do anymore. Like say you go to the gym and you don't go to the gym anymore. You're a gym person. You're like, wow, I haven't gone to the gym in 6 months, and I'm kind of bummed about things, don't feel inspired. And then you start, when I go to the gym, I feel good. So that Mars retrograde can say, I'm going to do that. I'm maybe just going to go like 1 day a week, something like that. Or a certain friend, I always feel good when I'm around her. Or you have a meditation style and you're not doing that particular meditation CD or the style. I'm going to do that and make a commitment to myself to tap back into those things that make me feel powerful internally somehow, connected to my vitality of spirit. So the kind of can make you say, well, what makes me feel ooh? And let me make a priority to do that. So you can notice things. And there also can be an element too of with Mars retrograde of eating habits or things you do that kind of deplete your energy. So it could be like, gosh, I've been eating a lot of sugar, and I'm just not going to do that. And then like, oh, I don't feel so bad, So it's examining why, because there is a why, and then saying, that's why. I'm going to make that more important and put it into action. So that can be the best way to use all of that. So those are the most important things about June. And again, it's a retooling and a pre-revitalizing time. And knowing that you can make the plan, you can put that plan in action, and that as far as other people go and all that frick-frack, it just can be very interesting how things unwind, but maybe not till late summer, just kind of letting people be a little crazy or doing whatever they're doing. Like people like in your life might do this offshoot thing and then come back and say, wow, like that seemed like a crazy offshoot, but I'm bringing something back to the relationship or whatever it is. You feel like, again, like totally at cross purposes, going that way, and then it's like, oh, then it, well, I can't do that, weaves in, so things that seem completely disconnected somehow reconnect, perhaps. But you kind of got to be this sort of, the Mars idea of being like the pioneer on your own path and bravely going and doing that, and then bringing that result back inward, and then seeing, does the other person come in back as well and reconnect in another time if you're having relationship issues. So anyways, sorry, now I get my cell phone ringing in the other room. It's a lot of distractions today. So if you want to get a session from me, lunamichaels.com. My cell phone is 248-583-1663. And that can, you can text me and we can make a session for that. Also, if you want to go on Amazon, I have my book, The Spiritual Gifts of the 12 Astrological Signs. And otherwise, hang in there. Have fun with this if we can, at least be making that future plan and recommitting to your personal empowerment. And I will see you next month. Bye for now.